Hey everybody, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Ezra Alexander, and today I'm gonna continue on with chapter 1 of Everything You Need to Know But Have Never Been Told by David Icke. So if you haven't caught part 1 to this chapter, please watch that first, because this information throughout this entire book stacks on top of each other. It builds, in other words, so it's kind of important to watch them in order. Excuse me. Alright, without further ado, let's get into it because it gets good. We haven't even gotten to like the juicy part yet. I mean, this is pretty juicy, don't get me wrong. Anywho, let's go. Computer universe. We have infinite awareness in awareness of itself that pervades everything. The force which moves all things, and its creation and creations that express themselves as realms of energy, frequency, and vibration. These creations, worlds, or realities can share the same space, or the illusion of it, because they operate on different frequencies. Different worlds or realities are different bands of frequency, like analog radio and television stations on different parts of the dial, but all on the same TV, right? Or same radio. What we call our visible universe is one such frequency band reality and operates as a quantum computer system. These are defined as a computer that makes use of the quantum states of electrons and other particles to store and process information. Put more simply, the universe is a quantum computer that stores information in the very energetic fabric of our reality, and the computing power of quantum states is absolutely off the scale. Current computers are limited by their choice between 1 and 0, which represent charges of electricity that are either on or off. Quantum computing has no such limits, and is quite capable of creating and processing universes. Think of a cosmic Wi-Fi field, or fields. You can't see Wi-Fi, but a computer can decode that hidden information source into a global collective reality on the screen that we call the Internet or World Wide Web. The universe is information stored in the unseen, like you can't see Wi-Fi, and what I will call the human body-mind is a biological computer, in the wildest possible sense of the definition, which decodes the Wi-Fi information construct of the universe into a perception of physical reality on our screen, what we experience as the brain and genetic structure as a whole. I don't know if you can see these pictures, but it's pretty much like an overlay over all of our reality, and it's like a visual representation of what Wi-Fi would look like if we could see it, or just information all around us if we could see it. Because remember, we can only see less than 0.00, what was it, 3%, 1% of light, the electromagnetic spectrum, and we can see a fraction of that. So there's a lot more to this reality than we can physically perceive. Figure 24. Our reality is like Wi-Fi, a sea of information that we decode into what we perceive as a solid world. Elite and massively funded projects around the world are developing quantum computers that mimic our very reality, with monsters like Google seeking to lead the way for reasons that will become clear. Here's another point staring us in the face. We have quantum physics because the universe is a quantum computer. Our quantum computer universe is interactive in the sense that we take information and perceptions from the energetic construct and post our own thoughts, perceptions, and emotions to impact on the universe. I call it the cosmic internet. The cosmic internet. Internet symbolism is very close to the truth, and the connection is through waveform information, electricity, and electromagnetism. Electromagnetism, every time that word. The human body/brain is a biological quantum computer, and so are planets, stars, and everything in our reality as expressions of the quantum computer universe. Cosmic Wi-Fi, or waveform information fields, are the foundation of the universe, and we decode the universe that we think we see from those fields in the way I will be describing. The universe can be summed up in one word: information. And even more accurately in 5: information encoding and decoding information. Figure 26. The universe is an interactive, wireless cosmos in which everything is encoded and decoded information. The computer/internet analogy is apt again. A desktop computer is information encoded to decode information, and information sources like disks, data sticks, and the internet are encoded to be decoded. Everything is interacting, encoded and decoded information, and so is our physical reality. The only place that the internet appears as we experience it with graphics, pictures, and text is on the screen. Everywhere else, it is information in other forms, and the same is true of the way we decode reality. The foundation state of the universe is waveform information, or what some call the metaphysical universe. The foundation level of the universe is waveform, aka information carried in waves. Our 5 senses convert this waveform information source into electrical signals and send them to the brain, which constructs the reality that we think we see, touch, taste, hear, and smell. Let me repeat that because that's important. Our 5 senses convert this waveform information source into electrical signals and send them to the brain, which constructs the reality that we think we see, touch, taste, hear, and smell. Take a simple flame on a candle. This seems to be so real, but it is only decoded electromagnetic energy, or information. We create the flame that we think we see. Robert Lanza, an American medical doctor and scientist, writes in his excellent book Biocentrism, co-written with Bob Berman, that a flame is merely hot gas emitting photons, which are tiny packets of electromagnetic energy, each pulsing electrically and magnetically. The brain produces the flame that we see by decoding that information. Lanza explains, "It is easy to recall from everyday experience that neither electricity nor magnetism have visual properties. So, on its own, it's not hard to grasp that there is nothing inherently visual, nothing bright or colored about the candle flame. Now, let these same invisible electromagnetic waves strike a human retina, and if, and only if, the waves happen to measure between 400 and 700 nanometers in length from crest to crest, then their energy is just right to deliver a stimulus to the 8 million cone-shaped cells in the retina. Each in turn send an electrical pulse to a neighbor neuron, and on up the line this goes, at 250 miles per hour until it reaches the warm, wet occipital lobe of the brain in the back of the head. There, a cascading complex of neurons fire from the incoming stimuli, and we subjectively perceive this experience as a yellow brightness occurring in a place we have been conditioned to call the external world." Talk about illusion. Alan Watts said, "Without the brain, the world is devoid of light, heat, weight, solidity, motion, space, time, or any other imaginable feature. All these phenomena are interactions, or transactions, of vibrations with a certain arrangement of neurons." And Morpheus told an incredulous Neo in the first Matrix movie, "What is real? How do you define real? If you're talking about what you can feel, what you can smell, taste, and see, then real is simply electrical signals interpreted by your brain." That's all it is, this physical world that seems so real. We see images on television only because of the same decoding process. Screen images are an arrangement of pixels which the brain decodes into the pictures that we think are outside of us and constructs the illusion of movement by literally connecting the dots. Let me see if you can see this little square right here. Figure 28. The brain decodes this into the television pictures that we think we see, but in reality, decode. We see television as moving pictures only because our brains link together still images into an apparent sequence. Excuse me. This also happens with LED screens, video games, and human reality. We experience movement in our illusory dreams, and what we call conscious reality is just another dream. New Scientist magazine said in a 2009 article that under magnification, the fabric of space-time becomes grainy and is ultimately made of tiny units, rather like pixels. I have been referring to the body as a biological computer since way back, and now I am seeing some mainstream scientists using the term. We think of biological as natural, but it is in fact a form of technology when compared to infinite awareness. The body is an extraordinarily advanced computer system, once again in the widest possible sense, which dies when it ceases to function. So does a computer. Goes into sleep mode to conserve energy. So does a computer. Has an immune system. So does a computer. Antivirus software. Has a brain. So does a computer. The central processing unit, or CPU, known as the computer brain. And has a hard drive, DNA, etc. So does a computer. The reason they can now connect a human brain with a computer and make the computer respond to thought is because they are connecting two computer systems. Figure 29 is an illustration of that. Connecting two computer systems, technological and biological. One is technological and the other biological, or another form of technology. The human body has the equivalent of a computer motherboard, with its genetic network and the meridian lines of energy on which the healing art of acupuncture is based. Meridian lines in acupuncture are the body's motherboard. Acupuncture needles and other techniques are designed to balance the flow of energy, or information, through those pathways to maintain information balance and communication in the constant interaction between body and cosmic internet. When those flows are out of balance, we enter a state of disharmony or dis-ease, what we call physical or psychological illness. We say, "My computer is so slow today," when information flows are out of sync and cause the computer to malfunction. Many laugh at the concept of acupuncture and ask, how can you cure a headache with the needle in the foot? Acupuncture meridians operate in circuits, and if the blockage in the circuit causing the headache is in the foot, it makes no sense putting the needle in the head. The meridian system connects with the chakra vortex points throughout the body's electromagnetic field, which connect the body with the cosmic internet and other levels of reality. Let's see if you can see this little picture over here. 7 major vortex points, or chakras, interpenetrating the human energy field with the heart chakra at the center. And that's important. Chakra means wheels of light in the Sanskrit language of ancient India, and the main ones are the crown chakra on top of the head, where I felt the drill energy on the hill in Peru, brow or third eye chakra in the center of the forehead, throat chakra, heart chakra in the center of the chest, solar plexus chakra just below the sternum, sacral chakra just beneath the navel, and base chakra at the bottom of the spine. Each one has a particular function or functions. The sacral chakra in the lower belly processes emotion, and so we feel anxiety and nervousness in that area. At its most extreme, this affects the colon and gives people the shits and makes them shit scared. We feel love, empathy, and compassion in the chest because that is where the heart chakra vortex is located within the body's electromagnetic field. Our 5 senses of sight, hearing, taste, touch, and smell are decoding systems. They take waveform information from the cosmic internet and turn it into electrical information, which they communicate to the brain. These are different forms of the same information. Different parts of the brain specialize in decoding information from different senses. Figure 32. Different parts of the brain specialize in decoding information from different senses. Everything we see, no matter how far away it appears to be, exists in the form that we experience in the small vision area at the back of the brain, the occipital lobe. The brain decodes electrical information into digital and holographic illusory physical information that we perceive in our heads as the world around us. know if you can see this picture, but it's literally just frequencies and waveform vibrating at such a slow rate that it forms physical reality, and that's just a picture of depicting that. We decode, figure 33, we decode waveform and electrical/electromagnetic information into digital and holographic states that appear to us as the solid world of human reality. There is, in fact, no world around us, and everything exists only in the brain and genetic structure in the form that we think we are experiencing outside of ourselves. Computers work the same way. Information decoding systems and what appears on the screen are all happening inside the computer. The five senses decode waveform information into electrical information and communicate this to the brain to be decoded into digital/holographic information. There is a phenomenon called synesthesia, in which senses merge and someone can hear words and music while at the same time tasting them. Different words and songs in their experience have different tastes. Our decoding processes and how they function create our reality inside the brain. Everything I have said here about the brain and the senses is confirmed by the experience of playing virtual reality video games which hack into the five senses and override their normal decoded reality with another artificial information source that appears to be so real. Figure 35. Video games are simply hacking into the five senses to override the information sources they normally decode and present us with a different reality. Figure 36. It may only be computerized electrical information, but the reality people decode can seem very real. A writer in a British newspaper described the experience of playing one such game. Quote, "The striking aspect of the game is the physical sensation of playing it. I feel and therefore believe that I am physically moving back and forth as though I am on a chair on wheels. External reality has fallen away, and I am in a strange and compelling world, anxious not to fall off the terrifying precipices. My brain sends signals to my body that create the illusion that it's shooting around like a pinball, when in fact, I am stationary." End quote. That could have been a description of human life because the principles are just the same. I saw an experiment which involved a doll wearing a virtual reality headset. A group of people were also given headsets that produced the illusion that their bodies were the doll's body. The doll was then touched, had an injection in the eye, and messed with in other ways, and each time the group reacted as if it was being done to them. They were feeling in their own bodies what was being done to the doll. This is how powerful and perception controlling even virtual reality at the current human level of development can be, never mind what is actually possible. We are one. No matter how solid something appears to be, it is waveform energy in its foundation state, and at this level it becomes possible to communicate with animals, plants, and even apparently inanimate phenomena like rocks. Everything is consciousness and alive as an expression of infinite awareness, whether it is a mountain, stream, or forest. Mainstream scientific studies are slowly beginning to acknowledge what awakened people have known all along, that everything is consciousness and connected to everything else. Evidence mounts to confirm that trees communicate, feel pain, care for each other, and organize as communities. And this is true of everything. Some scientists are asking if trees and plants have brains, but a brain is only a means of decoding information, and in that sense, everything has a brain because everything is constantly receiving and transmitting information. In five-sense reality, this is done electrically and electromagnetically, and you don't need a big chunk of gray matter to do that. There are endless other receiver transmission processes through which this can happen. Monica Gagliano, an evolutionary biologist at the University of Western Australia, concluded after a series of experiments that plants use sound waves to detect water at a distance and have the ability to learn. Heidi Apple, sorry, forgive me for these names, Alright. Heidi Apple, an environmental scientist now at the University of Toledo, led a team of researchers in a study that showed how a plant could distinguish between the sounds of wind vibrations and a caterpillar chewing. The plant's chemical state reacted differently when the two sounds were played and produced more defense toxins in response to caterpillar chomping. Quote, "We tend to underestimate plants because their responses are usually less visible to us, but leaves turn out to be extremely sensitive vibration detectors." End quote. Apple said. Buzzing bees generate a frequency that has been shown to trigger plants to release pollen. They call it buzz pollination. And other sounds have caused hormonal changes in plants. Dr. Suzanne Simard at the University of British Columbia in Vancouver discovered that trees transmit warnings with chemical electrical signals through fungal networks under the soil. A teaspoon of forest soil contains miles of them. The fungi operate like fiber optic internet cables, and this system has become known as the Wood Wide Web. Such networks operate at every level of the cosmic internet. This principle of communicating through sound and frequency explains the effect, good and bad, of chants and mantras. Everything is alive, conscious, and part of an infinite web of life and consciousness. Figure 37. Everything is alive and aware, and an expression of infinite awareness, the force that moves all things. The force. Michael Pollan, an author and researcher on these subjects, said of trees and plants, quote, "They have ways of taking all the sensory data they gather in their everyday lives, integrate it, and then behave in an appropriate way in response. And they do this without brains, which, in a way, is what's incredible about it. Because we automatically assume you need a brain to process information." End quote. But what is the brain except a form of information? And information can be processed in infinite different ways by infinite expressions of consciousness. The ignorant laugh and dismiss suggestions that we can communicate with animals, trees, plants, or rocks because they can only perceive communication through human language. And they perceive the world to be solid. At the waveform level and beyond, we are all connected to each other, and communication can happen not through words, but through the waveform connection, which you can liken to telepathy. An article in Scientific American magazine about black holes as computers said, quote, "To a physicist, all physical systems are computers. Rocks, atom bombs, and galaxies may not run Linux, but they, too, register and process information. Every electron, photon, and other elementary particle stores bits of data, and every time two such particles interact, those bits are transformed. Physical existence and information content are inextricably linked. Information content and the illusion of physical existence are inextricably linked because what we perceive as physical is information content. Form is information, decoded from waveform states. Form is information, the illusion of what we think we see. Physical reality, including the body, is made manifest through standing or stationary waves of information. Funny how the guy describing his experience playing computer games said, "My brain sends signals to my body that create the illusion that it's shooting around like a pinball when in fact I am stationary." He was unknowingly telling a profound truth about reality itself. To create standing waves, you need a block or wall at each end called a node point, which causes a wave traveling in one direction to bounce back in the other direction and interact with itself coming the other way. This bounced back wave then strikes the other wall or node point and returns in the other direction to create a perpetual motion of back and forth that itself creates a state of oscillation. Figure 39. Standing or stationary waves that hold information in place until the frequency is disturbed or switched off. When the two identical expressions of the same wave interact, they cancel each other out in the terms of forward movement and create a wave that oscillates up and down, or jogs/stands, on the spot. Funnily enough, the result looks like DNA, and that is related to the fact that the body and physical forms in general are manifested from standing waves retaining particular information in a particular oscillating field. While the standing wave field is oscillating, your body is alive, and the moment it stops we call death. The human heartbeat is an expression of this oscillation, and heart disease is actually a disruption to the oscillation which the heart is only reflecting. From this comes the fact that in the world of form, everything vibrates. If it vibrates, it's illusion. I say that what we call the universe is itself one big standing wave of information that oscillates, moves back and forth in a regular rhythm. How right we are to talk about the rhythm of life. German biophysicist Fritz Albert Popp discovered that DNA vibrates or oscillates to a particular frequency, and I say this relates to the standing wave. Russian researchers led by molecular biologist and biophysicist PG, I'm just abbreviating here, found that DNA not only receives and transmits information, but absorbs and processes it. This is how human genetics can be changed from afar by frequency, or information carried by the frequency, and how DNA can be programmed. This will be very significant as we proceed. What we call evolution, with species changing to stay in sync with the changing environment and developing gifts perfect for survival, comes from the information interaction between the quantum field of possibility and probability. DNA and the human energetic field, the whole body. Let me start over with that sentence. What we call evolution, with species changing to stay in sync with the changing environment and developing gifts perfect for survival, comes from the information interaction between the quantum field of possibility and probability, DNA, and the human energetic field. The whole body is an antenna including bone and skin because in their prime state, they are waveform electromagnetic fields. Grazina Fossar and Franz Bludorf write in the German book Vernetzi in Intelligence, I'm translating. Quote, "The latest research explains phenomena such as clairvoyance, intuition, spontaneous and remote acts of healing, self-healing, affirmation techniques, unusual light auras around people, namely spiritual masters, mind's influence on weather patterns, and much more. The Russian scientists also found out that our DNA can cause disturbing patterns in the vacuum, thus producing magnetized wormholes. Wormholes are the microscopic equivalents of the so-called Einstein-Rosen bridges in the vicinity of black holes left by burned-out stars. These are tunnel connections between entirely different areas in the universe through which information can be transmitted outside of space and time. The DNA attracts these bits of information and passes them on to our consciousness." End quote. Whatever happened to little me? By expanding the frequency band on which DNA is operating, by expanding our consciousness, we can connect with other realities beyond the five senses, as psychics and mediums do. We can heal and be healed remotely by using our consciousness to deliver harmonizing frequencies to another's DNA. Pause. That's literally what Jesus was doing. And people thought, he came here to teach us that we can do this. Like, what he was doing, they weren't considered miracles. That's just how reality is. Yeah, more on that later. We can do this to ourselves through consciousness communication with our own DNA. Self-healing, that is. This is the background to how mind can miraculously heal the body. There is nothing miraculous about this at all. Reality is designed to make this possible, but that knowledge has been suppressed to keep us in ignorance of our true power. Placebo pills trick the mind into believing they will be effective in curing illness, and the mind's perception of this is communicated subconsciously to the body, which then responds to that perception and heals itself. Surgeon Andrew Carr professor of orthopedic surgery at the University of Oxford, said that thousands of patients may be cured not by the operation, but by a belief that an unnecessary operation would remove the problem. Quote, having to stop work, having to change your life, coming into hospital, all of these people dressed in blue with hats on, you're anesthetized. All of that, if we believe in placebo, is surely a setup to create a phenomenal placebo effect. End quote. Studies have shown that patients who have fake surgery but believe they have had the real thing can recover almost or equally as well as those who have genuinely had the operation. Everything in all infinite existence is consciousness/awareness interacting with itself. Alright, I think I'm going to stop there, because like I said, this is a lot of information, and this video is already pretty lengthy. So, if you enjoyed this, please be sure to give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends if you think they'd be interested, or if you just want to, alter their perceptions of what we consider reality. But anywho, I do plan on having a summary after each chapter, and me just kind of discussing some major points and summing it up in a nutshell. So if you have any questions or any comments you want to add in or toss into the mix in the conversation, please feel free to do so in the comment section. Also, before I peace out of here, make sure you hit the bell, because like I said, I post and upload randomly, so if you want to stay tuned, hit the bell. And as always, thank you very much for your support and for tuning in. This information, I hope, will unlock some stuff in your DNA as it did in mine. Alright, y'all have a wonderful day, night, whatever time it is for you. Time. I use the term loosely. Anywho, thanks, and I will talk to y'all later. Ciao.